Hello, I'm Dwight Marlow, and thank you for joining us today. We pray that this program will be a blessing to you. So now, please enjoy today's witness. Well, tonight we want to continue with Angie Odom's story about Bella and what a special relation that she has with her mom, her birth mom. And so please enjoy tonight's witness.
And they left. And I'm sitting here like,
Really?
that's it, and I don't mean it bad, but it's for real. That's what happened,
Yeah.
And I was like, well, then I have to do something. This girl has to have an advocate, to
really?
speak up for her. So I found out at that point no one would take her. She didn't have the right insurance to get her into a nursing home, and we had to figure out what to do. And I'm not gonna lie, there's part of it in you that is so mad because this is a person that was in my life before, and I've tried to help.
Yeah.
And she kept making these bad choices. She had opportunities to make the right ones, but at the same time, she's helpless. It's just as helpless as an infant laying there, So even though I was mad at her, she still needed my help.
Really?
Yeah. So that's when I called one of our congressmen that offered his help always. And I called and said, we got a dilemma. And I remember telling him, and he was an OB doctor, and all he kept saying over and over was, the baby's alive, the baby's alive. He just, no matter what more I kept putting out there about the birth mom, he kept bringing it back, like, the baby's alive. And I said, look, I just got to get her out of there in this nursing home. She's got to get closer. I can't oversee her care 3.5 hours away. And he goes, let me see what I can do. And then within the next morning, they okayed her to be moved to our local nursing home. In the process of that, I had made one more visit down there and found her in even more shape. She did have an upper respiratory infection. She was very unclean all over. So, of course, I had to, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. It's not being unchristian-like to speak up for someone if they're not being treated right.
That's right. I preached that sermon this week. Yeah.
Why isn't there like,
stand up. We got to stand up for it.
Well, I'm going to do the Christian
right thing. Amen.
I'm not going to let someone lay there who can't speak for themselves and lay in their own feces and die.
Hey,
you don't do that.
For sure. No, you're not supposed
to. I had to bring out the administrator, and before I left that day, she was getting x-rays, medicine, and clean, and letting them know that we definitely would be having a different place for her to go soon. So 2 days before the transport from that nursing home, everything's been okay to go to a rehab closer here, because at this point none of the nursing homes would take her because they said no one had evaluated her to see if therapy would truly she'd benefit or not. So that made a difference of her insurance and what people would take. It's sad to say that.
Is that it would become long term, or it's something that could be
long term or short term?
She could be rehabbed out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that made a big difference though in cost. Too, because the more therapies, more it costs nursing homes, and that was where we kept the rock in the hard place there. And so we finally were able to get her to where she was going to get to be transported, but then there was no one to transport her. I was like, are you kidding me? So 2 days before, I visited our local rescue squad, and I was like, look guys, I have a girl, I don't know how to get her here, we have a place for her to go, and could you help me? And the only question they said, is she from our county? And I said, yes. We don't leave our people behind. And they went and got her.
Oh, tremendous.
They went and got her. They drove 3.5 hours away, which honestly, it took them longer on the way back. There was traffic issues. One of the guys said the only way they could calm her was to sing, and he said he sung everything he knew and probably sung it twice, And so the cool part is that was amazing. Is 2 days prior to this journey of the rescue squad and getting her here, we were all in bed. I was about headed there. My husband's in bed. My oldest daughter, she was already had her own apartment, but was home that night not feeling well. And I get the phone call, and it's the grandmother, and she says, I'm at the Department of Children's Services. She said, I have, there's no one in the family that can take the baby. And I have failed a test that they gave me. And will you watch her for a while? I said, okay, yeah. You know, I'm thinking, well, of course. I mean, how can, you know, if there's nobody here, I'm about to have, you know, the only way I can feel is like I already had a baby and now they're sending, you know, another one. Because that's how the birth mom's condition was. I was like, yeah. And so they said, well, here's the caseworker. He needs to get your information. So I had to give the caseworker our information because they do a little background, I guess, check on you before they can do that. And so I went and told my husband, and I was like, honey, you need to probably get up. They're bringing a baby. Oh, he goes, do you think they need me for something? I said, I bet there's papers to sign.
Oh, no. Earl loved that, didn't
So I
he?
went in my daughter's room, and she wasn't feeling it. I was like, I know you're not feeling real good. I said, but they're going to bring a baby by in a minute. She goes, where did this come from? And who called? And whose baby? There's all these questions. And now looking back, that was so comical because I had this moment. Here I've done the Crisis Pregnancy Center for all these years. And I had that one moment of panic that just set in. It's like, how do you care for a baby? How do you make formula? You know, it's like I just was drawing a blank, you know, for 1 second. You know, when your daughters are in her 20s and they're talking about dropping a baby off, you know, it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's just different. And so there it was, not long after, the car pulled up and the caseworker, which we are still, I'll pass him in public, and he's gotten to see, you know, our child grow over the years since that moment. I always joked and told him that the stork does happen. It's just it doesn't fly. It has 4 wheels because he pulled up that night, you know. Yeah. And but I remember him coming in, and now looking back, she was so tiny. I guess I was in such a numb, wore-out state, I didn't realize it. But she was a little, like 6 pounds. I mean, my daughter was 8'5". You know, I never even cared for a child so small. But you know, that was a whole learning experience of taking care of not only her 2 days before the transport of her mom, but having to see a child of what drugs do. Because, she was born addicted.
Right.
So the choices of her birth mom almost took her life because of the pregnancy.
Right.
But through the miracle of God and His hand, you know, around her, that when all the crisis was going on and the mom's world was crashing, literally about to die, God had His calmness around this child and protection. And then she had to go through the withdrawals of the medical drugs needed.
Goodness, we've been there for that.
And seeing him sweat. I remember, see, now it makes sense to me, but I had never taken care of an NAS baby, neonatal abstinence syndrome. I had never, some of the things I just thought it was a child trying to readjust, you know, because of the home and, you know, not bonding and things. But now it's so clear. I was like, I wasn't a crazy mom that had just not had an infant in 20-something years, not knowing what to do. Because that's what you started thinking. I was like, in 20 years, have I forgotten that they cry this much? You know, because it was always crying and throwing up, always throwing up, you know.
You hadn't had to deal with an addicted child.
No. But see, I was thinking, you know, that's before I realized really what was going on. Because when I went to the last meeting that really sticks out to me, it was DCS had us come in for these meetings over the course of a couple of weeks. And they wanted a hair follicle test of the birth grandma. And I remember that was the main reason in that meeting. But there was a lot of people at this one, and they had one phone in the middle that was a conference call from someone somewhere else. And the state nurse was present and had this really big, huge stack of papers. And she looked at me, and I'm up. The only way I could be in the meeting is to do acrobatic type moves, holding her, you know, keeping her moving and moving, because she would scream the whole time. And she looked at me and she said, you need to really make sure that you and your husband know what you're getting into. Because she says, do you see this? She said, this is the short version. The shortest version of her birth mom's medical records. She said, we look for this child to have developmental delays. We'll just be honest, we don't know at this point how bad it will be, but we'll guarantee that there's something. And I mean, it was almost like they were talking me out.
You and Earl had decided to take.
Well, that's when they had just that day said, you know, the grandmother looked at me and said, would you and your husband agree to adopt her? And at this meeting, she said, before y'all decide, you need to take this information in. You know, you need to think about this. And I was like, you know, all these people tell me this. I'm like, I gotta have God tell me this, you know.
Really,
so I went home, you know, I was telling my husband this, you know, and she was, of course, still in her care. And over a course of probably not even 48 hours, you know, we were talking about this. And that's when I was sitting in my car on the way to Johnson City. And I was telling my mom this. She goes, Angie, have you ever thought that God really wants you to be her mom? And that's when I said, I mean, I promise. People watching, they're like, oh yeah, it's one of them stories how it happens. But you know, it really happens in the craziest way. And I love that because that's like God's winks, you know, the winks he gives us, or the little like, oh, that one's just for you to show you. You know, it's one of those moments.
Know what you're talking about.
Because I said it, I was like, well, he's going to have to show me a sign. And as soon as I said it, it's not even there now. I looked in this building on the side. It was Angela's House of Hope. On the old Johnson City Highway. It was this little place. I don't know what they did. My real name is Angela. Nobody calls me Angela. You wouldn't call me Angela.
No, Angie.
And that's what we called the baby, was Hope. That was her middle name. And we called her that because she had the birth mom's whole name. And we called her
Angela's
Hope.
House of Hope.
I mean, right after I say that, it's like a sign from God. Angela's House of Hope. Okay. And then my mom said, well, right there's your sign. I was like, oh, Mama, that's a coincidence. And as we're traveling down, these big billboard signs are up. And it was like, is your baby in the right car seat? It was one of them insurance commercials, something. Right. Every billboard kept being a sign. Yeah. Have you got your family covered? Another one. And I was like, do I have my family covered? You know, I was like in the back seat. It was just like, but I knew. I think it was that night. I was, you know, trying to get her to sleep and just walking the floors. And I always sat with her in my arms, propped up, you know, sleeping because I was afraid she'd aspirate. And it's just like he was just holding her. And we had the same song. To this day, she calls it her baby song. And I just was bawling. You just bawling, holding her. And I was bawling basically because I don't know how to make her quit crying. Yeah. And she was miserable. But my heart just bled for her. But my heart also was attaching. Yeah, you know, where our hearts met in the middle. And then the next day I thought, well, I'm going to have to talk to my husband about this. And I said, we need to talk about, you know, and I told him what the meeting and what they had said. He goes, so what are you asking? And I was like,
let me get this straight.
Well, you know, what do you think? And he goes, she's where she needs to be.
Oh, man.
I was like, I could have knocked, I could have fell over. Because I thought, you know, here we are. We've raised our kids. This is our time. Right. You know, we've had a motorcycle. We thought, oh, we're just going to enjoy life. You know how you all think of that.
Yeah, just been on a big trip.
We're just going to just sit and be empty nesters, you know, and watch all of our little, you know, older children raise theirs and enjoy the moments and send them back home. But we're taking on a responsibility of a child that we don't know what her future is.
What a guy!
Our biggest thing
Earl is just he's special, isn't he?
Honey, bless his heart. He needs on everybody's prayer list that's watching because he is so outnumbered with girls in his life around our house. But you know, the biggest thing that we did have to really pray and make sure that we were right on target with God was because we are older. You know, he's 51, I'm 46, and we have a 3.5-year-old. That's a big thing. But we want to make sure that we're healthy. You know, or that, but at the same time, you could be 20 and pass away. Oh, yeah. You know, you could be, God knows, and He knows our days, and He knows that we need to, if we need to be around to raise Bella, then that's what He'll make sure happens. Yeah. But we didn't want to, you know, if something was wrong with her, we wanted to make sure we could provide the right type of care as we got older, you know, for her. So now we've come a long ways. We've been able to get, you know, the birth mom evaluated at rehab, which it was sad the day that all the department heads came together, and the family was supposed to show that day, and no one showed, and it was just me and Bella in there, and that's when they told us she would always be this way, the birth mom, that, you know, she is as good as it gets, that without a miracle, you know, the brain and brainstem was damaged, and we had to look at long-term care.
Now, had you taken on legal responsibility for the birth mom
that was the other crazy part. When a person's in vegetative state, you can't do any of the, like you can't do power of attorney, you can't do, you can do conservatorship, but that's a big responsibility. That's like pretty much adopting an adult, you know. But there was no property, there was no anything, you know. So what we did is the birth mom, her mother signed for me to be treated as next of kin, to where I still include her mom on these types of things, like when there's decisions, if I'm reacher. But, I mean, no, I've just always just kept doing what I was doing in the beginning. And that was, because my heart really was, involved because of her. I had no idea.
The birth mom.
The birth
that
mom.
connection that you had.
Yeah. And I just think the awesome part is I did know her before.
Yeah.
And I want Bella to know her mother is more than just a person that was addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
She had a troubled past. She had a troubled life, a painful one. But at the same time, she was a very sweet, smiling young lady who was a follower and really desired friends and people to love her, but they took advantage of her because she was willing to do whatever to keep her friends. I want her to know more than just the addiction. But the sad part is right now as we speak, there's a 30-year-old laying in the middle of a nursing home.
Yeah.
In a bed every day, who can't get up and walk, can't sit up in bed, can't watch TV, can't read a book. And there's times that we go, like, I just took Bella and we do visit. Some people say it's wrong to let Bella know the truth, but I can't lie to my child.
No, I don't think it's wrong.
I want her to know she's a miracle from God and that He spared her life because she has a true purpose.
We're going to show some pictures, if you don't mind. We went to the nursing home recently and filmed, and we're going to show while you're talking.
Yeah.
I think we'll show some of those, if you don't mind.
No,
we'll
not at all.
Just keep telling about that.
Well, because when we go, Bella loves to smell good smells and everything, and she'll usually get all the shampoo out and have her smell.
I noticed that.
And I wanted Bella to understand a little more about adoption, and with Bella does have a few health issues. Is part of Bella's life, but another person's choice affected her life. But one of the things that helps Bella is a cat, or kittens, or the texture of the cat. So we just recently went and let her adopt a cat. We actually have her signing the adoption papers. But I got to tell her about the little kitten's mom wasn't to be found, and there was these 3 kittens, and they needed some money, and so somebody else adopted the 2. Luckily, we only got 1 out of the 3. And but I got to tell her about being a mom and doing that, and so that's part of her understanding.
We talked about that. I thought how special that was, that as an object lesson, that she's adopting a kid, and then you took it over to be with her mom.
Yeah.
I mean, and share it with her mom. I talk about learning. You're very open about this, and that's a wonderful thing. So many people try to keep that part hidden.
It's real, though. That's the only way,
It's just what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's the only way to be, and for Bella, I have to make it a little exciting on the nursing home, whether it's to visit other people there, or to play in the garden, what she does there.
Oh, we had some. We'll show Shelby. She loves my wife, and I noticed that they were out running in the garden. Bella was going, chase me, Shelby, chase me, Shelby,
and you wouldn't think. I mean, when you see her run.
No, just.
One time we had.
How old is she in these shots?
She'll be 4 in January.
So she's 3.
So she's a little over 3.5. I know one time we've been able to take the birth mom out in the garden when the weather was just right. It's a risk getting her out of the bed for fall risk and hip breaks and all that, so we don't. But Bella, without us asking, just went over and picked a flower and come and laid it on her arm. And her birth mommy always was a cutter. She's got all these scars.
Oh, goodness.
But, that day, I have this still picture, and, maybe you can show it. And that was that yellow flower on the arm of all those scars. And what I seen was she always desired pure love. And this young little girl loves her just with a pure love. But now she can't receive it. Yeah. It's like now, there's no response. Taking in a birthday cake and singing happy birthday like we just did. Bella dressed as a princess. And we're doing all we can. But there's the stare. There's the no response. And I just know we can talk to her like she does understand us. And I can pray for her, knowing the Holy Spirit can speak when we can't. But I will say it thrills my heart to know she don't make the noise and roll back and forth that there's just peace over her.
We talk about that. I noticed that from the time we saw her, maybe a year or so ago, something like that. She was agitated most of the time, and she just had a calmness about it. Particularly, I noticed when Bella got up close to her, and I didn't know if there was any response other than it was just almost a calmness.
It's just a calm.
Yeah, and I noticed you had music for her there.
Yeah, I have. It's hard to get the right radio stations, Christian radio stations in there, so I finally just went and got a little iPod and and I have just Christian music that will keep repeating. And it's weird, we can get in the car, like immediately right now, if I put Bella in her car seat, she'll say, I want a baby song. And it's, right now she's on Kirk Daly. She's got some of my mom's old CDs going on. What I'm saying, any calming praise song, or she knows when it's a God song that she plays, she'll just shut her eyes and just do her own meditation. And it just like, her muscles are calm. And the funny thing was, I didn't know until recently that her birth mom is on the same medication that Bella takes to calm her muscles down. And that's really weird. Bella's is a little bit higher, but she's up moving. But that texture and music calms them both, because when her birth mom will have her feeding tube out, and I'll meet them at the ER, she'll be kind of moving around, and I can rub something soft next to her face and play the music, and she'll calm.
Goodness gracious.
And I see the same effect on Bella. And it's so crazy.
Right now they're connected by love. From Bella's standpoint, I mean, she just loves that person. There'll be a point in time when she'll realize, more than likely, that this is the woman who gave me life.
Well, I tell her that she was in Starla's belly.
You already
I've already told her that.
Yeah.
I tell her that, God had her in Starla's belly, and then Starla got sick. And then she couldn't take care of her, and that Jesus sent her to me. And she'll tell me, who sent you to me? And she'll say, Jesus. Well, whose belly were you in? No, she knows.
I didn't know that you'd told
she
her that.
knows. I feel like, especially being here around pregnant people and babies all the time, felt like it's just easier. It's kind of, if you already know something, it's not that day that's such a wham, kind of day. I dread the day that she has to comprehend Starla just didn't get sick one day. Like, she made a choice with drugs, and stuff. I dread that part. But God would prepare us for that day. I have to be honest with her, because she was a child born addicted, which means she's already an addict.
Yeah, she's has a predisposition.
Yeah. So she
I have
has
two
to
grandsons who are that way.
Yeah.
We saw them go. That's why I can't hardly help but tear up when you talk about that pain. We saw them crying, that little baby crying, addicted. It makes you mad. It makes you all sorts of things,
Oh yeah, I still, now don't get me wrong, I love Starla, the birth mom with all my heart, but there are moments, because now I'm raising my child, and she feels just like my child that I've birthed to me. I love her that much. And then, like, even this morning, was doing our some errands for the center, and we're in the store, and she stopped. She goes, Mommy, muscle cramp. And she's learned to yell it out to me, and I know to take her shoe off, and I know to rub her feet. My child has the muscle cramps because of a choice that someone made with drugs. And what people don't realize, some people think you're either high or you're dead, but they're wrong. There's the in-between. You might not have that next chance to ask God's forgiveness or ask God into your life. Do you want your children to have to visit a nursing home?
Goodness gracious.
To come see you? That we can't even go. I just got the invitation for Thanksgiving at the nursing home to eat dinner with your family. We can't even do that with her because she's in a bed with no anything.
Yeah, totally. There is, boy, from what we've seen, and I know you've seen it too, there's like almost a hell between those points. It's not just after death. It's amazing with what it does to people around you, and in her case, she's just a vegetable. There, we don't.
And some people, I know, I've been asked, and people don't understand it, that she's breathing on her own. She's on less medication. The birth mom is
she's
every day.
She's a beautiful girl.
Yeah, gorgeous. Young lady, and she's on less medication than most people walking around. But some people say, well, how long are you going to let her lay there? Like, I'm not choosing for her to be there.
Right.
God is giving her next breath, at this point. And it's not up for me to decide when she does go. That's up between her and God. It's not my choice. And that's the part that is amazing to me. Like, being pro-life starts in the womb, But that even means now.
Yeah, really.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, when you're truly for life, when is it, do you think just because somebody's older, oh yeah, they're okay, you know, they're dispensable?
Yeah.
No. Or in this case, it breaks my heart to see her lay like that. No, I don't want to see anyone just lay in a bed. And yes, the way society looks at it is she's costing us money.
Yeah.
But you know why she's costing us money? Because the system failed her when she was a teenager. When she was in a home that at that time wasn't structured well, and she kept making bad choices, that's when she should have been given a chance for a different home.
Mm-hmm.
But the system didn't work it that way.
Yeah.
And now the system gets to pay for it.
Yeah.
And that's what almost happened with our little one, Bella.
Yeah.
But praise God, she's not going to be in the system. And through all that we, you know, have, all the people that God has put right in front of us and all the efforts that we're trying at home, she is amazing. I know one of her testing just last week, every week when we go to speech therapy, they're doing this evaluation. They say, oh, we're going to be done today. We're going to be done today. And as of last week, you know, she's at a 6.6-year-old level on this test.
I know, goodness.
And I'm like,
an amazing child.
You know, this is the child that was supposed to have all of these delays. She's never missed a milestone.
Well, we do thank Angie, and we just hope that what she has to say and the story of Bella and Star will just make a difference in somebody's life. And we just ask, as always, that, Lord, that you would keep us until we can be together again. Amen. If you'd like to find out more about Angie's ministry work, you can contact her by phone at 423-543-4673 or by mail at TLC Community Center, 145 Judge Don Lewis Boulevard, Elizabethton, Tennessee, 37643. Angie does a lot with a little, so any support in time or money that you might be able to give to this bold and effective ministry would be greatly appreciated. We particularly encourage anyone who is feeling the call of God to get into this type of ministry in your own neighborhood to contact Angie. She is willing to help you get started to do God's work in saving the least among us. Thank you.